Greetings and welcome to third lecture on unit number 3, fluid kinematics. This lecture we are going to discuss the different types of flows. As far as the classification of flows are concerned, there are wide variety of fluid flow problems encountered in the practice, and it is usually convenient to classify them on the basis of some common characteristics to make it feasible to study them in groups. There are many ways to classify fluid flow problems, and here we present some of the general categories of the fluid flows. So first category, that is steady versus unsteady flow. So when we come across flow, whether it is steady or unsteady, how we can recognize steady flow? Generally, this is a type of flow in which the fluid characteristic like velocity, pressure, density, etc. at any point do not change with respect to time. It's called a steady flow. And mathematically, we can have variation of this parameter with respect to time at one particular location. It remains constant. So that is dA by U by dA by D, that is x velocity component with respect to time at a particular location space coordinate x naught, y naught, z naught, that is equal to 0. Similarly, y component is equal to 0, z component is equal to 0. And similarly, the pressure variation and density variation is generated and so on. So such type of flow is called as a steady flow, uh, uh, where x naught, y naught, z naught is a fixed point in a fluid uh, field, where these variables are being measured with respect to time. Unsteady flow, on the other hand, it is a type of flow in which the velocity, pressure, or density at any point changes with respect to time, and mathematically, exactly these parameters are not equal to 0. So, because it varies with respect to time at a particular location, that is at given point, these parameters are given. So, for example, if we keep on opening the tap water, the wall of tap water, the water flow rate continuously increases from A towards C. So this type of this is a transient process. So this type of flow is we can call as unsteady flow. On the other hand, for fixed position, there is a continuous flow of water is taking place from the tap water. So that flow is called as a steady. So at any given time, this flow remains constant. So velocity remains constant, density remains constant, and pressure remains constant. So such type of flow is called as a steady flow. We already studied the unsteady flow in thermodynamics part, where the mass flow rate remains constant. So similarly in fluid mechanics, steady flow means velocity and other parameters remains constant with respect to time. So their differential with respect to times are 0. And if the differential is with respect to time not equal to 0, then such type of flow is called as unsteady flow. So generally, most of the transit flow in between the transition flow, so that is during the opening and closing of the wall, the flow remains unsteady. Even during the acceleration part, when the uh, fluid air fuel mixture passing through the carburetor, there the continuously the flow changes. So that flow is also called as a unsteady flow. So that these are the examples of engineering example we can say. So this is the first category of classification: steady flow and unsteady flow. Then the next category, that is uniform versus non-uniform flow. In uniform flow, this is the type in which the velocity at any given time doesn't change with respect to space coordinates. It's called as uniform flow. So mathematically, velocity with respect to any space remains remains constant. So if we measure velocity everywhere, suppose for generally flow through a constant diameter pipe, if we measure velocity at any given time, if the velocity here is suppose 10 meters per second, everywhere velocity is 10 meters per second. Across the cross section also velocity is almost same. So uniform flow, it is also called as ideal flow in micro level basis. Generally in the pipe flow also, the velocity near the boundary is 0 and the velocity at the center is maximum. If such type of velocity distribution means there is velocity everywhere, it is constant across the cross section. So in that case, the uniform flow is also called as ideal flow. And sometimes we can call it as ideal flow if there is no variation of velocity with respect to radius or with respect to y. But in macro level, if the average velocity doesn't change with respect to space coordinate, then that flow is also called as uniform flow. So there is a slight confusion between uniform flow and ideal flow. At the micro level, when we consider a particular cross section, and in that cross section, if the velocity remains constant, then it is also called as the ideal flow as well, in addition to the uniform. So because in actual flow, there is velocity is zero at the boundaries, and it is keeps increasing, and because the viscous effect decreases, and it is at the center where the viscous effects are almost negligible, it reaches to the maximum velocity. So this is about the uniform flow. So the mathematical expression of uniform flow, dabba v by dabba s, that is s is the space coordinate, that is at any given time is equal to 0. So there is a possibility that the that in uniform case it may be a steady or unsteady. Dabba v is a change in velocity. Dabba s is displacement in any time. So this particular term is very important at any given time. So if we are measuring the velocity through the pipe at one particular time, it is remain constant. In other time, it may changes. That if it changes, it is called as a uniform unsteady state. Or if it is not changing, then it is called as a uniform steady. So on the other hand, the example that is flow through a straight or that uniform diameter pipe or prismatic conduit, that is called as a uniform flow, a simple way. So this is a pipe flow. This is called as a uniform flow, where continuously the velocity everywhere is constant. In non-uniform flow, it is the type of flow in which the velocity at any given time doesn't changes with respect to space coordinates. So exactly the reverse is a non-uniform flow. So flow through a non-prismatic conduit, or we can say the flow through venturimeter. Here the velocity here is different, velocity here is different. So if it is a convergence section, velocity is continuously increases. Then from this point, it continuously decreases. So this way you can realize this also. So flow around uniform diameter pipe bend or canal, that is also called as, so flow through any non-uniform cross section, that is called as a non-uniform flow. So such type of flow where the velocity changes with respect to space coordinate. So actually in practice, it is only saying it uniform flow, non-uniform flow, steady flow, unsteady flow is not a sufficient characteristic. So generally these four types, these are the basic types. They appear in combinations. So for example, steady uniform flow, steady non-uniform flow, unsteady uniform flow, unsteady non-uniform flow. So these are the types generally appears. So for example, if the flow through the this particular pipe, if the it doesn't change with respect to time, then it is also called as a steady uniform flow. If it changes with respect to time, then it is called as a unsteady uniform flow. Similarly, here the flow is unsteady, but uh, at for particular time it doesn't change with respect to time, then it is called as a non-uniform steady flow. If it changes with respect to time, it is called as a non-uniform unsteady flow. So generally flow through a carburetor during acceleration or deceleration, it is considered as a unsteady non-uniform flow, because during that flow the flow through carburetor is nothing but venturi part, the flow becomes unsteady because it is flowing through a non-uniform cross section, and it keeps changing because during acceleration we are changing the rate of fuel air mixture. So that flow is also called as a non-uniform unsteady flow. So in practice, these flows appear in combinations. So only calling it uniform flow, non-uniform flow, steady flow, unsteady flow is not a sufficient description of the flow. We have to attach either, in fact, in all types of flows, there is a possibility of steady and unsteady. So we have to be careful there. So this is about the uniform versus non-uniform flow, because these are the basic descriptions. But in combination, in all flows, there is a possibility of steady and unsteady. So this is about uniform and non-uniform. Then laminar versus turbulent flow. Laminous, the dictionary meaning of laminous is the parallel layers. So laminar flow is one in which the path taken by individual particles do not cross one another and moves along a well-defined path. And this type of flow is called as a streamlined flow or a viscous flow. Generally, the viscous fluid, suppose the oil is, this is oil is flowing from the drain pipe. It seems stationary, but if we can see here, we can realize the flow. That means the fluid particles are not crossing the boundaries. They are flowing along a well-defined path. That's why it is called as a laminar flow. So laminar flow generally occurs at a very, there are certain criteria for laminar flow. So if the flow is taking place through a very small capillary tube, then it is considered as laminar. So flow through blood veins and arteries. Then groundwater flow, it's a or flow with a very low speed, that is also called as a laminar flow. So laminar flow, there are three major criterias of laminar flow. The flow of a very thick fluid can be considered as laminar flow. The flow of fluid at a very low velocity can be considered as a laminar flow, and flow of fluid through a very small cross section can be considered as a laminar flow. So flow through capillary tube generally considered as a laminar flow. Uh, on the other hand, turbulent flow, the flow is that in which the fluid particles move in an entirely haphazard or disorderly manner. So most of the practical flows encountered in engineering problems, they have a turbulent characteristics. So generally high velocity exceeds, suppose in later, in few topics later on, the one dimensionless number which is used to recognize whether the flow is laminar or turbulent. There are separate topics to for the laminar and turbulent flow, especially unit number 4, unit number 5. They are mainly related with the laminar and turbulent flow characteristics. So there we will study in detail. So generally in fluid mechanics, basically the flow analysis is taking place with the help of these two types of flow, laminar and turbulent flow. So laminar flow, you can see we cannot realize the laminar flow because the fluid particles are moving in parallel path along streamlines. On the other hand, turbulent flow, the fluid particles move in an entirely haphazard or disorderly manner. So this generally takes place at a high velocity. So at a low velocity, suppose the flow is laminar. So exactly in the same pipeline, if we increase the velocity, then it becomes turbulent. So these are some characteristics of laminar and turbulent flows. And most of the practically occurrence flows are, they are turbulent. Laminar flow, they do appear in practice, but in certain cases, especially these are the characteristics of laminar flow for a very low velocity, for a very flow of very thick fluid and flow through a very narrow section, then the flow remains a laminar. So this is about laminar and turbulent flow. So again, like uniform and uniform, there are the sub-classification of laminar flow, that is steady laminar flow. So it doesn't change with respect to time, it remains constant. And if it changes with respect to time, because this is streamlined flow, velocity remains constant everywhere. And the profile we will study in detail, that is parabolic profile for laminar flow. So this is steady laminar flow because its velocity doesn't change with respect to time. And this is called as unsteady laminar flow. So here the velocity changes with respect to time, but at a particular time, that its flow remains streamlined. On the other hand, turbulent flow, there are again two categories, that is steady turbulent flow and unsteady turbulent flow. Here the fluctuations are there. So fluctuations are there in steady as well as unsteady turbulent flow. But if the fluctuations are uniform with respect to time, then it is called as a steady turbulent flow. If the fluctuations are non-uniform with respect to time, then it's called as a unsteady turbulent flow. So this type diagram-oriented questions, you have to, most of the MCQ type questions, and they mainly rely on such kind of diagrams. So we have to recognize the types using this particular time. So these diagrams are very much helpful for the image-oriented questions in MCQs. This is about the laminar versus turbulent flow. Then the next comes, that is a compressible versus incompressible flow. Compressible flow means it is the type of flow in which the density of the fluid changes from point to point. It keeps continuously changing, or in other words, density doesn't remain constant. So generally in gas flow, through a non-uniform cross section, the density doesn't remain constant. So density keeps changing. So flow of gases through any non-uniform cross sections like orifice, nozzle, gas turbine, etc. So suppose this is a jet propulsion where the air enters into the compressor. So compressor is a reducing cross section where the continuously density changes. Then this is a combustion chamber. Then the burning takes place and the exhaust flowing through the turbine. This is a jet engine. So where it consists of compressor, combustion chamber, and turbine, where the actual power is produced. So flow through the entire mixture, that is the air, then fuel is added here, and the air fuel mixture. So this particular flow is regarded as a compressible flow because the density keeps changing during the course of flow. On the other hand, the incompressible flow, it is a type of flow in which the density is constant for the fluid flow. The liquids are generally considered as flowing incompressibly because of its nature, because liquid is incompressible fluid. So even density remains constant during the course of flow. So all subsonic aerodynamic flow is considered as incompressible flow, that is flow through orifice, that is liquid. Same, that is flow of gases through orifice nozzle gases, gas turbine are considered as compressible. So same devices, if the liquid is flowing, then it is considered as incompressible, because even though if the liquid is flowing through a narrow cross section, non-uniform cross section, its density doesn't changes with respect to space coordinates. So this is again animated view of when the fluid is flowing through a Francis turbine. So again, it is a variable cross section, but still the density remains constant. So this type of flow is called as incompressible flow and compressible flow. So this is type, again, there are this flow are also associated with whether that is steady or unsteady. So it is nomenclature. So for compressible flow, we can say the total derivative with respect to time is always constant zero. For incompressible flow, that is density doesn't change with respect to time as well as with respect to uh, that is called as incompressible flow. So uh, Mach number is also used to recognize whether the flow is compressible or incompressible. So generally for incompressible flow, the Mach number is less than 0.3. But if the Mach number exceeds zero point 0.3, then the flow becomes compressible. Then further compressible flow is classified as subsonic flow if the Mach number increases from zero point 0.3 to zero point 0.8. Then it is called as subsonic flow. From 0.8 to 1.2, it is called as a transonic. And if it exceeds 1.2 up to 3, it is called as a supersonic. And if it exceeds 3 Mach number, then it's called as a hypersonic flow. So this type of flow generally for high-speed aircraft, we can experience this type of flow, transonic, supersonic, and hypersonic, especially spacecraft where the Mach number goes up to 16, 17, like that. So this is a variation of Mach number. But as far as the compressible and incompressible is concerned, if the Mach number is less than 0.3, the flow remains incompressible. For most of the liquid flow, the Mach number is less than 0.3. But if it exceeds 0.3, then the flow becomes compressible. And these are the different classes of compressible flows. This is what the compressible and incompressible flow. Then we can describe the flow in mathematical way also, that is one-dimensional, two-dimensional, and three-dimensional flow. In one-dimensional flow, it is the type of flow in which the flow parameters such as velocity is a function of time and one space coordinate only. So mathematically, we can have one-dimensional flow where the average velocities are considered when it is a function of only one space coordinate. So most of the engineering problem, we consider the flow as one-dimensional, that is along x direction. So other dimensions we do not consider for calculations. But for micro level analysis, we have to consider three-dimensional flow as well, especially in CFD analysis, computational fluid dynamics. So where u, v, r, w are the velocity components along x, y, and z directions. So here the velocity varies only along x direction, not along v, y, and z direction. So it is a function of only one space coordinate and time. So one dimensional, again, there are classes, that is one dimensional steady or one dimensional unsteady. So example, that is flow in pipe, where average flow parameters are considered for analysis, that is called as a one-dimensional flow. In two-dimensional flow, the name itself has a meaning, that the flow in which the velocity is a function of time and two rectangular space coordinates, that is called as two-dimensional flow. So mathematically, u is a function of x, y, v is a function of, so there are two velocity components, and both velocity components, they are function of x and y. It may happen velocity is a function of y coordinate, that u is a function of y coordinate, v is a function of xy coordinate. So overall in the fluid domain, if it is a function of more than one space coordinate or two space coordinate, then it is called as a two-dimensional flow. So flow between parallel plates of infinite extent, because in that case the flow is varies with along x direction as well as y direction. That is called as a two-dimensional flow. So flow in mainstream of wide river. So if you have realized the flow, observe the flow of river. So it is a major flow is taking place along the direction of flow, but along across the cross section also the fluid is moving. So that we can realize from the actually waves that is striking on the side. So that means the velocity, the fluid also flowing along y direction as well. So this is two-dimensional flow. Three-dimensional flow, it is the type of flow in which the velocity is a function of time in three mutually perpendicular directions. So here, all three components of velocities are present. All three space coordinates are also present. That is, u is a function of x, y, z, v is a function of x, y, z, w is a function of x, y, z as well. So flow in convergent divergent pipe or channel, that is also called as a three-dimensional flow. So these are the ways we can express a mathematical way. Also, we can express the type of flow that is either one-dimensional, two-dimensional, or three-dimensional flow. The flow in open channel, in which the width and the water depth are of the same order of the magnitude. Suppose for a very less depth water flow, in that case, the water flows along z direction as well. So the deep, where the depth is more, then in that case, the water flows in only two-dimensional. But suppose the flow through a very narrow channel, open channel, where the depth is not more than 3-4 feet. So in that case, and the surface is rough. In this case, the movement of water along vertical direction as well, that is z direction. So these are some practical occurrences of the one-dimensional, two-dimensional, three-dimensional. But generally, these type of flows are expressed with the help of mathematical relations. Or if any flow field, if it is a function of one space coordinate and time, then it is called as all together, all three velocity components, suppose they are present. And all together, if it is a function of only one space coordinate and time, then it's called as one-dimensional. If it is a function of two space coordinate and time, then it is called as two-dimensional. And if it is a function of three space coordinate and time, then it is called as a three-dimensional. So this is about one, two, or three-dimensional flow. So here you can realize all three types. So here we can say this is a unidirectional flow, one-dimensional. Then the flow becomes 2D from here onwards. Okay, because there is a variation of velocity along y direction as well. So velocity here is low, then it continuously increases along y direction or r direction. So this is the best example of two-dimensional flow. Then comes rotational and irrotational flow. The flow is said to be rotational if the fluid particles, while moving in the direction of flow, also rotate about its mass center, about its own center. The flow near the solid boundaries are generally regarded as rotational flow. The motion of liquid in rotating tank, they are considered as rotational flow. On the other hand, irrotational flow, the flow is said to be irrotational if the fluid particles, while moving in the direction of flow, also do not rotate about their mass centers. and the flow outside the boundary layer is generally considered as irrotational flow. The flow above a drain hole of a stationary tank or basin, that is called as a irrotational flow. If the flow is irrotational as well as steady, then it is also called as a potential flow. So these are some natural occurrences of rotational or irrotational flow. Now here we can say this is a flow is rotational because the fluid particles also moving about its own axis also. So that is called as a rotational flow. That is flow in generally rotating tank like our washing machine. That is called as a rotational flow. Well, this is the example where we can, this is analogous to our irrotational flow. So you can consider this person sitting on the giant wheel as a fluid particle. So the fluid particles, suppose they are moving in circular direction, but it seems rotational, but it is not called as a rotational flow because the fluid particles, or in this case, that is analogous body, that is the person sitting in the giant wheel, they do not rotate about their mass center because their head remains stay in vertical position. So that's why it is called as a irrotational flow. So this is exactly the analogous thing of the definition. Irrotational flow, fluid particles while moving in the direction of flow. So direction of flow is not necessarily a straight direction. It may be a circular direction, but while moving, the fluid particles do not rotate about their own center. Like in this case, they are also moving along their own centers. That's why it is called as a rotational flow. It is called as a irrotational flow. So another, this is the whirlpool is another example of irrotational flow. You can realize here the fluid particles are rotating, and at the center the velocity increases. So even in tornado also we can consider that the flow remains irrotational. But the fluid particles do not rotate about their own axis. That is called as a, so these are some natural occurrences, but from engineering perspective, the flow near the boundary is always considered as a rotational flow because if it the flow having a multi-direction, so it moves along x and y direction. So there are two velocity components present: the velocity component along x direction and velocity component along, or we can say the gradient component. So if dabba u by dabba x and dabba u by dabba y both are present, then it is called as a rotational flow as far as the engineering perspective is concerned. So flow near thin boundary, that always consider as a rotational flow, and flow away from the boundary, that is called as a irrotational flow. So here we can consider the flow is uh, because it is away from the boundary, that is called as flow is irrotational, or here because there is a rotation taking place, that is called as a rotational flow. Or we can say here the flow is irrotational, and near the boundary we can say the flow is rotational. Here again we can say this is inviscid core where it is not affected by viscosity. It remains at mainstream velocity. So this is called as inviscid core, or we can call the flow in this particular core, that is called as irrotational flow. And the flow here that we can, that green shading, that is called as a rotational flow. Because or in other words, if the flow is affected by the boundaries, if the flow is affected by the viscosity, then it is called as a rotational flow. That's why if it is not affected by the boundaries or viscosity is immaterial there, then the flow is called as a potential flow. Because in the potential flow, the fluid particles are moving its own full potential. So for example, here you can say the velocity is maximum in this particular zone. In the pipe flow, this is a pipe flow, velocity is maximum in this particular zone, or velocity is lowest in this particular case. Especially at the boundaries, the velocity is almost zeros, and it continuously increases, and the velocity is maximum here. So this green zone we can say, or the blue lines where the velocity is maximum. So that's why it is called as a potential. So steady irrotational flow is also called as a potential. So these are the different classes of rotational types of flows generally described. So description is required for analysis. So before analysis of any type of flow, it is mandatory to describe that particular flow. So generally, as far as this syllabus is concerned, first we will describe whether the flow is laminar or turbulent. Accordingly, the equations are applicable. If the flow is laminar, laminar flow relations are used. If the flow is turbulent, turbulent flow relations are used. We'll discuss, there are separate topics for laminar and turbulent flow for the analysis purpose. As far as this subject is concerned, so we identify whether the flow is laminar and turbulent, and based on that, we can use the suitable expressions. If the flow is laminar, we use the expressions for laminar flow. That is expression for pressure drop, expression for velocity, expression for discharge, like that, expression for stresses. All this we can use the laminar flow expression, and vice versa for turbulent. But in addition to that, the flow can be described in other ways also. So these are some additional ways for the, in most of the books, these terminologies happen, that is viscous or inviscid flow. The flow in which the frictional effects are significant, then it is called as viscous flow. And the region of flow on both sides away from the surface and unaffected by the presence of the plate, that is called as inviscid flow. So suppose again, like irrotational flow is also called as inviscid flow. Rotational flow is also called as a viscid flow, or we can say viscous flow. So another terminology of rotational and rotation. So here we can say the flow is possible because the fluid is flowing from A towards B towards C. So this is only possible if the frictional effects are negligible. Otherwise, near the boundary, the fluid is not, fluid is remains stationary, or the flow is remains stationary, or the fluid particles possess zero velocity if the cylinder or any surface is stationary. And the uniform flow, so where here we can say the entire flow is inviscid, because uh, the flow near the boundary is also possible because the velocity, there is some velocity magnitude here, or everywhere the uniform flow. So there are three ways of describing ideal flow. Ideal flow is also called as uniform flow. Ideal flow is also called as inviscid flow. Ideal flow is also called as irrotational. Because ideal flow, it doesn't possess some viscosity, and if there is no viscosity, there is no frictional effect. So there are many ways we can define the types of flow. These are some types where this is inviscid flow. Another way we can define the flow, that is internal versus external flow. We have a separate topics for internal and external flow, because internal and external flow, they exhibit different characteristics. The flow in pipe or duct, or especially in closed conduit, that is called as internal flow, and it's completely bounded by a solid surfaces. Internal flows are dominated by influence of viscosity throughout the flow field, because the entire cross section is dominated by the viscosity. You can realize here. So everywhere the viscous effects beyond this particular form, that is fully developed flow, everywhere the viscous effects are there. So for example, this is for laminar flow, this is for turbulent flow. Only the velocity profiles are different. I'm not going in depth here because there are separate topic for the same. So we can say there are many applications that most of the thermodynamic systems, the fluid systems, wherever there is a fluid and fluid is flowing through the closed conduit, that is the example of internal flow. Suppose this is engine, the fluid is flowing. So through, so the compressor case, we can say the fluid is flowing through from compressor to turbine, this is about the engine, we can say from engine to turbine. This is turbocharged, we can say. Again, the air is taken from outside, from compressor to intercooler to again from engine, like this. So there are many examples of internal flow. Means whenever there is a fluid in the system and the fluid is flowing through closed conduit, then it is an example of internal flow. Similarly, for external flow, it is unbounded flow over the surface, such as flow over the plate, flow over wires, flow over pipes, that is called as external flow. In external flows, the viscous effects are limited to the boundary layers only. So near a solid boundary surface, only the viscous effects are there. And beyond that particular boundary, the flow remains inviscid, irrotational, or the viscous effects are not there. In some cases, there is a wake region in the downstream, especially in non-flat surfaces, flow over that pipe or wire or any cylinder. Then at the downstream side, there are some ADs are formed there. The flow is rotational. Uh, that is the case only there where the viscous effects are there. So this is flow over a flat plate. Only this particular zone, the viscous effects are dominant or viscous effects are considered. Beyond this particular zone, the viscous effects are not considered, or the flow is regarded as inviscid. We can say where the flow is called as irrotational. We can say here we can say the flow is rotational, as well as viscid flow, frictional flow, real flow. All these terminologies we can use for describing these types of flow. So most of the flow over the flat surfaces. So there are many examples. Suppose the flow over this surface, we can consider the flow over a flat surface. So especially analyzing the drag offered by the, even in aeroplane cases also this flow analysis is taking place. This is called as external flow. Then the flow over a bundle of pipes in that is air is moving over the pipe, that is also called as external flow. Then the flow in a closed conduit, but in this case, as far as with reference to the pipes, the flow is considered because that this flow is taking place over the bundle of the tubes. Then this type of flow is also regarded as external flow. So there are many examples of external flow in engineering practice also. So it is very necessary to recognize the type of flow, because accordingly the equations are changing, according to the conditions are also changing. So for example, for external flow, the laminar flow persists up to the Reynolds number 10 raised to 5. But same for internal flow, the laminar flow for the Reynolds number exceeds up to only 2000. So the criteria of Reynolds number is also different for external and internal flow. So for external flow, all three types exist there, that is laminar, turbulent, transitions. But for internal flow, whatever the flow at the inlet, same is the flow at the outlet. If it is laminar at the inlet, it's throughout laminar. For that, if the uniform cross section is there. So this way, the flow can be defined as internal and external. So in addition to these are the various ways we can describe the type of flow. So at the end of this particular session, you should be able to describe the different types of flows. In fact, any single type of flow we can describe in all these ways. So this is actually homework for you. You recognize any practical flow and you can define that practical flow. So for example, if we consider a tap water, the day-to-day life, we come across this tap water. So tap water, if it is the tap is fully open, then all types we can describe here. So for example, if the flow rate is constant, it is called a steady flow. As it is flowing through a uniform diameter tap, that is, which is also called as a uniform flow. As the liquid is flowing, it is also called as an incompressible flow. Then as the flow is a bounded flow, after flowing, it is affected by some boundaries, then it is called as a rotational flow. Or if away from the boundary, it is not called as irrotational flow, because that is a bundle of a jet is coming out, so it is affected by the boundaries, or viscous effect is there. That's why it is called as a rotational flow. If for analysis, it seems it is flowing in unidirectional flow, so that it is also called as a one-dimensional flow. It is also called as a viscid flow. It is also called as the external flow because it is flowing out of the tube. Then it is called as external flow. Up to still before releasing the tap, it is called as internal flow. So this way, if you consider any type of flow, we can describe all in all ways. All ways means all types. So in fact, there are 6 basic classification: steady, unsteady, uniform, non-uniform, laminar, turbulent, then compressible, incompressible flow, then rotational, irrotational flow, and one-dimensional, two-dimensional, and three-dimensional flow. In addition to that, that is viscid and inviscid flow, internal and external flows. This way we can describe. But there are 6 basic classification we can describe. So any type of flow we can identify this way, or either of the one is definitely there. because every classification, there are two types. One, synonyms and anonyms are there. So this is very important topic where before analysis of the flow, it is very much essential. We should recognize the type of flow. Earlier, we have discussed that how to determine the velocity and acceleration and other flow parameters. The second important part, that is the types of flows. So every time when in practice also, you experience the type of flow, and every time when you come across any type of flow, you can just try to recall all these 6 types of flows. That's it from this particular lecture. Thank you very much.